everyone, it's me, Slim Hope, and today I wanted to start off by announcing that I'm going to make a movie series on my channel where I review and talk about films of any genre, really, like I like to talk about on this channel. My channel is, Christian and family content related, so movies that fit in with the image of my channel are movies I want to talk about. But I wanted to start off with ranking my favorite films of the Skywalker saga. I will not talk about the side Star Wars films because one, I haven't seen them all, and two, they're not part of the Skywalker saga, and I'm a huge fan of the Skywalker saga. I'm not really interested in the side stories, really. I've tried to watch side stuff without Skywalkers. I've tried to watch Rogue One, but I couldn't get past the 15-minute mark, and I kind of gave up on it, and did not get the chance to see Solo yet, but I don't know if I want to see it because I've seen the trailer and it kind of bored me to tears when I tried to watch it. But my favorite part of the Star Wars saga as a whole, and really the only thing I enjoy about it, is the Skywalkers and the 9 films. So I'm gonna rank it from favorite to least favorite. And in number 1, my most favorite trilogy would be the original trilogy. I did not grow up a Star Wars fan. I was very against watching it growing up until December 29th of 2019. And it was really because my brothers had pushed it for so many years. It was always their thing, not mine. I was a Twilight girl. So I think that was a big reason why, because growing up I was a huge Twilight fan, and I never had an obsession like that before in my childhood. I would say the next biggest obsession I had as a kid growing up was the Backstreet Boys, but Twilight was number 1. And I would argue Aladdin the cartoon was, because my favorite song as a little girl was A Whole New World. And I think the reason why I watched it so much was because of A Whole New World, but I never had an obsession like Twilight growing up. So that's probably half of the reason why, but it didn't interest me before. But technically, my first Star Wars film was Attack of the Clones when I was a baby. My mom told me that when I was born, she watched it with me, and I happened to share the same year the film came out, so it's kind of fitting, I suppose. But I never really got into it on my own, really, until about 4 years ago. And ever since, I've gotten obsessed with it. I have a Star Wars collection, and it's driving my brothers nuts, even though growing up it drove me nuts when they were into Star Wars. Ironic, isn't it? But the original trilogy is my absolute favorite. I don't know how to explain it, but even though I didn't grow up watching Star Wars and I wasn't interested in it, I had this weird nostalgic feeling. Every time I watch it, it feels nostalgic in a weird way. I don't know how to explain it. It's just so fun. The entire trilogy is really fun as a whole. And although there's been changes as to quality and some things added after Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, I still enjoy it. My favorite one of the original trilogy that is my favorite, and it's probably cliche that I say this, but it's The Empire Strikes Back, and it's mainly because of the Darth Vader father reveal thing. But if I had to rank which movies in the original trilogy that was my favorite to least favorite, it would be Empire, A New Hope, and then Return of the Jedi. And Empire is my absolute favorite. Another reason why I would say is because of Yoda, because it was our introduction to Yoda, and Yoda is like one of my top 5 favorites characters, and I hated the fact that he wasn't introduced in A New Hope. And because A New Hope, although it's the beginning of the story, you know, you have to get used to characters. I felt like some parts of the movie kind of dragged a little bit, but I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy all 3 films. It's just Empire's always been my favorite, and main reason is because of Darth Vader and Yoda. And I just hate the fact that Yoda wasn't introduced to Star Wars until the sequel came out. At the time, and Return of the Jedi is my least favorite, just because it was still fun. It just wasn't my absolute favorite. It didn't it has a different feel to it, which I like. It's just not my favorite. I don't know. I don't really have anything bad to say about the film, but it's just not my favorite. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you have a movie series and you happen to like the trilogy, but one of the films is your least favorite, and you don't really have a bad thing to say about it. It's just not your favorite kind of thing, if that makes any sense. But my next favorite trilogy in the Star Wars Skywalker saga is the prequels. Although people like to make fun of the prequels, I know back then I heard that it was hated when it first came out, and as time progressed, it became loved, and it's now like it's got more fans than haters now, which is awesome. I didn't have to witness the whole hate train. Although when the first prequel came out, I wasn't born yet, and by the time the last film came out, I was about 2 or 3, so I wasn't old enough to really catch on to that drama, like I did with the sequels. But although I was late for that too. But even though it doesn't have the best CGI, at times it's fine. It's my favorite one of the prequels is Attack of the Clones, and a part of the reason why it's got a special place in my heart because it's because I know that it's technically my first Star Wars film that I've ever watched, but I don't remember because I was a baby. So I got a soft spot for it, but it's the romantic one. It's the most romantic one out of the prequels. Although I do love action in Star Wars, my favorite aspect of Star Wars as a whole is the romance. I know that people tend to lean towards the action and the fantasy lore of Star Wars, but for me, it's the romance. And I know that in Episode 3, the romance between Anakin and Padme was getting trouble, you know, getting bad, and because he turned into Vader. But in Episode 2, it's just a fun, sweet little romance, and I like that about Attack of the Clones. It's my favorite one because it's the romantic one. Before, the storm. It's right before the storm hits, and Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin becomes Vader. But I just love it. It's, despite its bad CGI at times, I think it's charming in a way because it's unique. Even though it has bad CGI, I think it makes it better in a way because it's unique, and I know that the original trilogy didn't struggle with that so much. I know it had its flaws when it came to quality in certain scenes and stuff, but with the prequels, I think the bad CGI makes it better because it's unique in that way, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. I know it sounds weird because when people say it's bad CGI, I mean, they tend to let that affect their experience with the movie, but I don't. Even if I notice it, I don't let it affect my viewing of any movie. And I think the CGI in the prequels it's charming. I don't know how to explain it. I know it's weird, but I think it's just charming. And my least favorite trilogy in the Skywalker saga is obviously the sequels. Although I have changed my mind about The Rise of Skywalker, it is still my least favorite in the trilogy, and my second least favorite in the 9-episode saga. My least favorite in the 9 episodes is The Phantom Menace. I forgot to mention that the Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite, and The Phantom Menace is my least favorite in the prequels, but as a whole, The Phantom Menace is my least favorite out of the 9 films, and The Rise of Skywalker is the second. I would have to say my favorite in the sequels is The Last Jedi, because it's got more Reylo, and if you've watched my channel, you know I love Reylo, and my second favorite is The Force Awakens. And it's really because, although I said that A New Hope is my second favorite in the original trilogy, The Force Awakens is on the number 2 list when it comes to my favorite sequel, the least favorite sequel. It feels too similar to A New Hope. I know with the trend of requels, a reboot sequel, where it's not really a reboot, but it's not technically a sequel. That's what a requel is. It's a mix of a reboot and sequel. And I know that's what not A New Hope, but The Force Awakens was going for, but it just felt too similar to A New Hope. Even though Empire is my favorite original film in the original trilogy as a whole, even though it's, like I said, Empire is my favorite original trilogy movie, but The Force Awakens is my second favorite in the sequels because it just feels too similar to A New Hope. But I like the story still. I mean, I like the movie still. It's just not my favorite in between the 3 because it feels too similar to A New Hope. I don't know how to explain it. I may make a video on it about explaining how I see it as similar movies, but yeah, that's all I gotta say. I'm going to upload movie reviews of Star Wars one by one, from episode to episode, but not completely together because I can't make a video longer than 15 minutes. So I'm going to end it there, and that's all I gotta say. God bless and bye.